This is Kevin Moore from Timba.com with an overview of Beyond Salsa Piano Volume 5, Introduction to Timba. If you have general questions about notation, audio files, the book versus the ebook, and so on, please see the video for Volume 1 of this series. By 1989, Cuba's Soviet-style conservatory system was turning out hundreds of tremendous young musicians, even as the Soviet Union itself was collapsing precipitously. The Berlin Wall was demolished in late 1989, and the cessation of Soviet subsidies in 1990 led to the extreme economic hardships of Cuba's special period. In an effort to boost tourism, the Cuban government took drastic steps to create a lucrative nightclub and recording scene in Havana. This created unprecedented economic opportunities and fierce competition among the newly minted conservatory virtuosi and the band leaders who employed them. By this point, governmental attempts to suppress both North American music and Afro-Cuban religious music had relaxed considerably. All of these factors, and many more not mentioned, produced the perfect musical storm from which a new genre, Timba, emerged. Chapter 2 introduces the major Timba bands from a fan's point of view, highlighting what I consider to be the very best albums and songs after years of listening and research. This section was written in 2010. I wrote a longer and more detailed Timba listening tour several years later for Beyond Salsa for Beginners, and I'm currently working on a new book, the first without musical notation, with the working title of Understanding Timba, that goes year by year, group by group, and album by album through this tumultuous period. All right, it's time to test your skills. Imagine that you've arrived at a gig and been given a chart with only the clave direction, 2-3, and a chord progression, A minor, D, F, E. Here's our Timba Rhythm section play-along track without piano. Try playing along. If I'd watched this video 16 years ago, before my first trip to Cuba, I would have said, "What, is this a trick question? It's obvious. You've given us the clave direction and the chord symbols. What else do we need? Everyone knows the piano montuno rhythm." Now we just apply this rhythm to the chord progression in octaves and thirds, and voila, piece of cake. Then I would have said that the bass tumbao should really be changed to the and of 2 and 4. So that's all there is to it, right? That's what I thought until I went to Cuba and heard piano tumbaos like this. And this. And this. That 1944 Tumbao from Arcaño's Arriba la Invasión that we studied in Volume 2 had become the salsa tumbao, but Melon, Pupy, Tirso and Company had other ideas. Beyond Salsa Piano Volume 5 and the rest of the series are about getting from this to this. Here's the method. Chapter 3 identifies 10 of the most striking innovations of timba piano playing. Extra left hand notes, grace note rolls, contrasting gestures, displacement, contrary motion, and so on, listing examples of each from classic Cuban recordings. Let's look at innovation 4, extra notes in the left hand. One way to understand this is to compare it to the speaking tones and manoteo of a conga tumbao. When the whole band is playing, the main thing you hear from the congas are the tones and slaps. But the conguero is also filling in the subdivisions with softer time-keeping strokes collectively called manoteo. The traditional piano tumbao already does this to some extent, playing its most important accents in triple octaves and filling in with thirds. But many timba pianists add a third level of hierarchy, filling in the remaining subdivisions with single left-hand notes. Here's an example from Beyond Salsa Piano Volume 9, Melon's famous tumbao on Issac Delgado's La Temática. If you play such a part without accents, it sounds like Bach. Now here it is with Melon's accents and each hand soloed. Pupy Pedrosa's tumbao on Que Tiene Van Van from Volume 12 is the most famous example of Innovation 6 contrary motion, but Pupy uses this device on many of his tumbaos. Contrary motion simply means that one hand goes up while the other goes down. If you take a college harmony course, you'll find that this is the rule rather than the exception in classical music, but it's surprisingly underutilized in tumbaos. Innovation number 1 is the big one. The piano tumbao as a song-specific hook. This means two things. First, you can tell what the song is by simply listening to the piano tumbao, and second, it's the piano tumbao that sticks in your ear and makes you want to buy the record. Let's return to Arriba la Invasión from Volume 2. This was cutting edge in 1944, but today that same piano part has been used thousands of times over a large range of chord progressions. Soloing the piano tumbao on a salsa track is often not enough to identify the song, but if you solo the piano on Que Tiene Van Van, there's no doubt what song you're listening to. Chapter 4 consists of 32 tumbaos, all over the aforementioned chord progression, that demonstrate these innovations in various combinations. There are also 6 play-along tracks at various tempos. In Chapter 5, we introduce another of the key concepts of the Beyond Salsa series, rhythm section gears. I'll introduce gears in the YouTube video on Beyond Salsa Percussion Volume 3. Each of the first 4 piano volumes contains a harmony appendix that analyzes each tumbao in Roman numerals. All of the tumbaos in Volume 5, of course, use the same chord progression, so I've used the harmony appendix for a 16-page study of most of the tumbaos from most of the important Cuban recordings of the 1990s. Looking ahead, Volumes 6 through 9 cover the career of the great Ivan Melón Lewis from his entrance into the Issac Delgado group until his departure from Cuba in mid-1998. Volumes 6 to 9 of the bass series cover Delgado's bassist of that period, the phenomenal Alain Paris.